My name is Lakeba.
And we are starting a new channel. I'm so excited, and I hope that everyone who comes to our channel can take something from this. This has been on my heart for a few years now, and I've been waiting for Lakeba to get on board with me. It was just in my spirit that she was to do it with me, and we finally are on one accord and we're starting. So I hope you all enjoy. This is going to be uplifting, encouraging. We're challenging you to look at yourself and even help with the healing process for all of us. I feel like a lot of us in the world go through a lot of the same things, and maybe out of fear or just embarrassment, we don't share things. And so we're going to talk about the nitty and gritty of everything on this channel. So I hope that you enjoy and that you are blessed by this. So.
Yes, amen. We getting into the real, you guys. I guess a little bit about myself. I'm Lakeba. Lorèal taught. We met last year, and she had I feel like we got close quite fast, like faster than I would make any friends usually. And she had mentioned that she'd been wanting to do a podcast for the longest. She's like, you should, because when we talk, we just talk so well together. And I feel like I don't know, I just feel like we bring out the things that we want to say to one another, or things that we may not say to somebody else. It's easy for us to get that out with each other. But she told me she wanted to do the podcast, and I'm just like, no. Yeah, friend, I support you. You can do that. I encourage you to, but I don't think I need to be a part of it. But this past year, I recently just gave my life to God, and I've just been in this entirely different headspace about everything, and even the things that, especially like overcoming my fears and trying to, not let them stop me, and because the devil is a lie.
Amen. Amen.
And so, like, we had a talk one night, her, me, and my sister, and like, she mentioned the podcast again, and I was just like, I went home and like, I don't know, I feel like God was still like confirming, but also talking to me. It's been consistently, I feel like, telling me that I need to work on and facing my fears head on, and with the anxiety that comes with just, I guess, with it all. So I was just like, yeah, I for sure feel comfortable doing the podcast with you. It's something that I enjoy doing as far as talking, with her, and I just also want the Lord to use me to bless others. And so, like she said, I'm hoping that we can do that with this podcast for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of anxiety, I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. That's why I have been so hesitant to start this, is because of my anxiety. And when I talk to Kiba, like she said, it's easier for me to get my words out. I don't, because I stumble and talk too fast sometimes, but with her, I feel like it's just, I speak clearly and I think clearly, and I believe that this friendship was definitely a divine intervention from God. And you have to be very careful with who you're connected to. And so today we are going to be talking about, what are we talking about today?
Our topic is power of the tongue, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to start off? What do you, I guess, when you think of power of the tongue, or
So as some people know and many don't, I've been raised in church my whole life. I've been at the same church since I was 4 years old. I'm 26 this year, and I always heard in the church, the scripture, the life and death lies in the power of the tongue. And when you're a child, or you're hearing that, like you think about it, you kind of understand what it means. But as I've gotten older, in the last couple years especially, I really have truly grasped the understanding of what they're really saying about. It's not just like, oh, we live and then you die. Like, no, everything that is around you, everything that comes out of your mouth is either life or it's death. There is no middle ground. So what are you speaking out into the world? What are you speaking over other people, your kids? What are you speaking over yourself? You have to be very careful what you let out of your mouth, because you're manifesting things, you're prophesying things into existence. And sometimes we don't really realize that. Even when you say, oh, I'm so tired, and you constantly saying I'm tired, your body doesn't understand that you're just expressing how you're feeling at the moment. And then that you're always tired all the time, you don't have energy. Or even I stopped saying I'm so dead, like, oh my gosh, I'm dead, when I'm laughing with people, because why are we speaking that we're dead, even out of our mouth? So just even things like that you don't realize matter so much. And sometimes we wonder why we're going through the situations in life or why this is happening. And even if you just change the way you talk, you could see how big of a difference that could even make. And
it is. It makes me think about one of my good friends. Her name's True Destiny. Hey, girl.
Oh, yes. Hi, friend.
She was saying one day, because we've been like on this. She's been keep holding me accountable a lot about, staying active in my like healthy lifestyle and like working out. But, I got my sister on board too and whatnot like that. Hey, Key. And she was just saying too, like one day we went to one of her dance like workout classes, and she was saying it's also just because it starts with your mind. And she was saying if you simply just change the way you speak, your actions will follow behind. And that makes instead of saying, oh, I'm like you said, I'm tired, or oh, I can't do this, like I can't get through this, and it just will register your mind, because it starts there, the idea, and it creates, from there, what you say, so what you think from what you say, into how you act and how you move. And it also kind of just makes me think about how they said, I was thinking about Genesis in the Bible, and I don't know if this is to be a faith-based like podcast, but at the same time, because
we're both faith-based,
exactly.
So it's not necessarily but
yeah. I mean, so y'all,
God is living here.
Exactly, He's living here. So if y'all here, He's living here through us. Okay. But it makes me think about Genesis, and when they said God created the world, and the first thing was God. Don't quote me wrong, y'all. I'm still learning, okay? I'm a baby in Christ, but as far as scriptures, I won't quote them specifically, and I don't have my Bible with me because we're recording on my phone right now. But you probably can correct me when they said first it was God. The first thing was with God was the Word.
Yeah.
And so that just really, when she told me that we were going to do this topic, I was contemplating and thinking on it and whatnot. And I was just like, wow, the first thing there was God's word, before, and He spoke all of these things into creation. So it's just
literally.
like, and and God, He's our Father, He's our Creator, and with the first thing being Word, His words had intention, and so being conscious of because we are creators, because we are from Creator, and just being conscious of what we speak, or what we think and then what we speak. It cultivates what we create in a way. So, I'm always trying to making sure I'm practicing, speaking positive and not negative. And even like now, girl, I'm trying to stop cursing,
yes,
I'm really trying to get my tongue together, and I think I've been doing pretty good. I can't even, I say some words here and there, but honestly, I don't think I really be even cursing that much. But and then also too, like you were saying, power of the tongue is like, first you want to, speak positive to self and uplifting and light to self, but also to others, because one, being women, I just got done watching this sermon. She said she's gonna watch it after, but she was pretty much talking about how Eve was created. Oh goodness, it was such a good sermon, y'all. But one thing that stood out for me was how she was saying that Eve was created as Adam's helper, and God created Eve as the helper because she knew that Adam needed help, and that I'm trying to see how can I connect this. I don't want to, but what I'm pretty much trying to say is that she also said how God didn't create anything after Eve. Because Eve was the finisher of everything. Wow, and that she knew that Adam needed Eve to be able to finish the job that he gave Adam initially, and that I'm trying to connect the ideas in my head, you guys, but pretty much she's the finisher, and pretty much she had an anointing, and that's why the devil went for her and not for Adam, because he knew the anointing that Eve had, and the purpose that exactly. And if he could go to the finisher, then he could disrupt everything that God exactly. And so I want to tie it in because she said something about the tongue. Y'all, it's trying to come to me, but in so many words, I'm trying to say that because my mom used to always tell me growing up that women men have strength and whatnot, and physical strength, but women have our word.
Yeah,
And
so they say that, even in a relationship, like, men never forget what you say to them, and women never forget what you do to them. And a woman's voice is so powerful.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is, the woman herself, like we're gonna have to do another podcast for even just speaking on that, but we are the mothers of the earth. We're the nurturers. We're the ones who, you give us a house, we give you a home, you give us food, we multiply whatever you give us. So what comes out of a woman, it can be very life or death.
Exactly.
Literally,
especially in the tongue, and it just makes me think about, like you said, how men remember everything we say. Just even when you speak over your children or just somebody you love, you just want to be conscious of how you speak to them, because it can be life or death. That can really tear a person down, or even your child down.
And if you're speaking to somebody you love, you should be speaking with love.
Exactly. That was something that I feel like it's been a pattern that, the Lord's been speaking with me lately too, but being conscious of how we speak. Now, I understand that, like, we all receive differently. I don't know if we talked about this already, but, like, I feel like we receive love differently when they say love languages.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, one, I feel like being a child of God and being humble and letting go of pride, when you're talking to people, because remember we were talking with, we were talking with DJ or whatever that night, and because this conversation always comes back to mind, and we were saying how men take things personal, and I remember your point was that
men feel deeper.
They feel deeper, but you were saying how sometimes we'll say things out of a loving way, but they don't hear it until we snap and say it,
Yeah.
And he was pretty much saying, his argument was, that's wrong of us as women, knowing that it'll affect them in some type of way. And my first thought was, well, that's a personal problem. But at the same, then God was like, no, because if you love and you care about this person, then you have to think about how you're delivering the message so that they receive it.
Yeah.
And so, it takes a lot of humility. It really does take a lot of humility, especially in the heat of a moment, or, when you have temptations, or when the devil is trying to make you succumb to anger and fear. Absolutely. And all these other emotions, but
that's why walking away, the gift of walking away
really
is so important. Like, even with Nadia, that's my daughter, and I just had a newborn baby boy. When I get upset now, like, sometimes I don't talk to her right away anymore. I have to walk away from my own child before I say anything, because I don't want to be spewing things at her that I don't mean out of anger, or even when she talks bad about herself, and like when she messes up, she's very hard on herself. As am I, she will say something bad in the moment. I'm like, so when she does speak negative over herself or says something bad, I make her say 2 affirmations of, what are you? Like, I am loved, I'm beautiful, I am whatever, to try to cancel out that negative. So you want to put more positive out there than negative to help. And
exactly,
because whenever what people don't realize is, even if you could look it up scientifically, when you put something out there, whatever you speak out of your mouth, it never comes back. It's floating up somewhere in space. That those words you can never take back. So you have to be very conscious of that. And the more that you think about that daily, it will help you in your everyday life and all your relationships. And like she said, with cursing, I too have been working on that. So now when I think of curse words, I just think I'm putting a curse out there, and I don't want to do that. So just being conscious of that as well. And just being graceful and just being loving and understanding. Like I told her, if you are talking to somebody you love, even if you are upset, maybe just walk away, or just think, like, I love this person. I'm not trying to hurt them with what I'm saying. And sometimes, like, people who personally know me, I could be a killer with my words, and I actually used to be proud of that and saying that. And I could really hurt you and cut you with my words deep, because I'm such a wordologist. That's what my mom said the other day. And I was thinking about that. It's like, why am I proud of that with people I love, And I always thought that I was better than certain people because they hurt me through their actions, when, like you said, it starts with the thought, and then it comes with the word, and then it comes with the action. And that's a triangle that just keeps revolving.
Somebody was telling me, but it's a chain, I don't know if you sent me that video on Instagram, but it's not even a cycle, it's a chain. And so if one of those chains aren't broken, it's gonna, the link is gonna continue pretty much. And so you gotta break that chain at the, at the thought. Honestly, it's at the thought process. But even though we're speaking of the power of the tongue, it really starts with how we think. And
Absolutely.
And I feel like one way, even though we're not talking about changing the way we think, is me, just because this is my testimony, believing in something, and like I really had to give my life over to the Lord, to change the way I was thinking, to change my perspective on everything that was going on in my life at the time. And that has been so eye-opening. It's been a very peaceful experience as well, because I don't deal with the anxiety that I had before. Not that I don't deal with anxiety, because it doesn't happen overnight.
You're carrying the weight with someone else.
Exactly. There you go. I'm carrying the weight with someone else, because at first I felt like it was all on me. But yeah, so that you can.
And even if you don't believe in God or anything other than yourself, I mean, there's books out there about reprogramming your yourself and your mind, because the mind, they always say, is the terrible thing to lose. When you lose your mind, you pretty much, what else do you really have left? And so you have to be very intentional with what you're saying and what you're thinking. And even like I struggle with thoughts. I even went to my therapist, like, I think something wrong with me because I'm having all these bad thoughts. And she was like, you can't control what you think. So thoughts are like clouds in the sky. You see one, it pops up here, it comes and it goes. You see how clouds move, they come and they go. Now it's up to you to decide if you hold on to that cloud, if you keep that, and then if you speak on that and act on it, it's up to you. But thoughts are something like, so when I think of have a bad thought now, I immediately cancel it. And if I even have to speak something like, no, I rebuke that, I don't claim that, I'm this, I'm that. And that's what's been helping me to try to get in control of my thoughts, because you cannot control what you think. So that was really helpful to me, and that's been helping me be speaking better. Even it's just knowing that I am in control, not in control of my thoughts, but I'm in control of what I say and what I do. Just like when people feel like emotions are bad things, there's no such thing as a bad emotion. Anger, rage, there's nothing bad with your emotions and what you feel. It's all about what you do with those.
Yes, I was just explaining that to my son earlier. He's a very
I love that.
He's very tender-hearted, is how I want to
He's in tune emotionally.
Yes, he's just very emotionally in tune. And so I picked him up yesterday from the Salvation Army. And girl, all I heard, I'm like, I'm here to get king. I heard him stop. I know him screaming. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna walk back there myself and see what's going on. What's going on? She keeps mocking me, and so I'm just like, okay. Sometimes I have to, like you said, walk away, or I have to really stop, pause, think, how am I gonna handle this situation? Because I don't want it to escalate. Because I know this is what I used to do. Y'all, I've been doing so good. Like before, I used to yell all the time, like not wanting to be like my mama, and I'm sitting here yelling all the time. And so this past, 6 months, or this past year, it's been a big transformation, but I literally started just being a lot more gentle. Like I'm already gentle, but it's like when I'm upset, or when my patience is tested, is yelling. And so I don't resort to that, but he's been responding to it really well.
Oh, that's good.
And so, but anyways, I had to explain to him, and I'm like, and how do you explain to a 6-year-old? How do you explain to, kids sometimes? Because kids are so like,
even the ones that are like emotionally intelligent or even like super advanced, they still don't understand things.
Yeah, it's like what they see is what they get, or something like that.
Or even with Nadia, I used to have people come over, and I talk loud. I'm a very passionate person, and I came from a very quiet home. My mom never cussed or yelled at us, like, ever, and she's very gracious. And I know she has a past, but she has got to that level of peace, and I always desire to get there. But she used to always think when I would be talking to friends, like if I had people over and we're laughing and joking and talking loud, she would think that we're arguing. And I'd be like, you have to understand, like, we're just talking loud, we're not arguing. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't understand that, because as a kid, you associate people talking loud or even play fight, whatever, that, oh, we're fighting, we're yelling, something's wrong. So definitely trying to get them to understand everything that you see is not always what it is.
Exactly.
It's very important.
But yeah, I was saying that he was just very upset, and so I noticed in the moment I really couldn't get through to him because he was just so into his emotions. So today I came back this morning and asked him why he was upset, and he was saying because the girl did whatever she did. And so me just trying to explain to him, like, okay, your emotions, it's okay to be angry. I understand you were angry, but it's not about, I was like, we gotta figure out ways to express our anger without with getting our feelings across, so people can understand you. Because if you're just yelling or you're just screaming and crying,
nobody's going to be receptive to
exactly
that.
Especially a grown up, like, we don't know what's going on because you can't even get your words out. So I'm really trying to practice with him how to express himself, how to find a way to calm down when he's angry, to try to redirect those emotions, so he can express himself. So, if something was bad happening, we can know exactly what's going on,
Yeah, instead of just, even as adults, when we are upset, especially with our significant other or something, we yell a lot, and you just spew out whatever sounds good and hit the, below the belt a lot and things. And so if people don't know, anger, rage, those feelings are secondary emotions. Those are not real emotions. They are something that we've shielded to protect ourselves or defense mode. So we have our real feelings are, that person hurt me. They hurt my feelings. I'm sad about that. I felt even disrespected by that. But when you start to get into those rage and anger, those are secondary emotions. So even helping, try to figure out, how did you really feel when that happened? So one thing I've been doing with my daughter, because I have been trying to do gentle parenting with her, which is not always successful, which is fine. I grew up disciplined, period. If you discipline your children, if you don't discipline your child, you don't love them. But also, we don't have to beat our children. It's some kids that's not they don't receive that. My daughter, I asked her, like, what type of punishment would you want today? And she like, you could whip me, mommy. She prefers whoopings because that's easier for her. So one thing that I've done now is I talk out everything with her, a situation. And even the other day, she was like, mommy, how long is this conversation going to be? How long is this talk going to be? So I know that it's getting to her. So like, even in like that situation, for instance, I'm like, okay, what did they do to you? How did that make you feel? What would you have liked them to do? What would you have done if you were them? It might sound silly, but if you really, even as adults, if we process, if somebody said something to you, how did you initially feel? Why are you so upset now? Did they trigger something to you? Do you agree with them in some point? Did that resonate? So trying to break down things would really help you realize, like, they just upset me. I'm not even angry. I'm hurt.
Yeah, and I think that's also good just for communication in general, because communication is not supposed to be easy. It is supposed to be, sometimes it is hard, especially when those emotions are in the mix. But I feel like to have effective communication, like with the people that you love and you care about, I think that is very important. So I'm most definitely gonna try to remember implementing that when I am talking with King, or even like, my significant other as well. So yeah, I think that's very important, because I don't know, I just feel like if we did communicate more effectively to one another, that a lot of things could be avoided. You feel me?
Absolutely. Even like you're about to back off to what you were talking about when DJ and how you feel like you have to say certain things sometimes to a man to get their point across. But honestly, there's so much miscommunication that happens even when you're communicating, and people don't realize that, because 93% of communication is nonverbal. So only 7% of what you're saying is part of communication. It's your tone, it's how you said it, it's your body language when you said it. All those things fall into part with communication, and people don't realize that. Or sometimes, how you'll say something to somebody and they like, oh, you just said I'm this and I'm dumb and I'm stupid. Like, no, that's not what I said. Like, but that's what they summarized up together. And because half the time, that's usually you hit a bone in somebody when they get so defensive. It might be because of somebody in the past who talked to them a certain way, or if they feel these ways about themselves and it's something that they're working on. A lot of people have triggers, which is going to be another podcast that we talk about. And unfortunately, as adults, you can't. People don't have to bow down to your triggers, because your triggers are for you. Now, if it's somebody who loves you and they know something that triggers you, then they need to be a little more compassionate with those things. But even now, I've been doing so well. Therapy has been life-changing for me, literally. But when I do feel some type of way, I start to feel my heart race or that adrenaline come in or something, I'm like, okay, Lorèal, why are you so upset about this? What did they say or do that is bothering you that much? And when I look back at it, it's something that could have happened in my childhood or some other experience I had with somebody else. But the way that they said something, the sound of their voice when they said it, the aggression that they said or the demeanor, it triggered me into thinking it was something else when that's not that's not what they were really trying to say. So back to effective communication, I was watching a podcast and they were saying it's really good to repeat back what somebody said to you, so that you under active listening and to understand that. So I know that you actually heard what I said and not just putting in what you think I said. And that would even help a lot in communication with, even at jobs or, any communication that you have, because people get offended a lot. And sometimes, like, a lot of people will cut off people. They'll stop talking to friends. They'll end relationships over, something, a miscommunication.
And I feel like, too, what was I going to say? I feel like, that's why communication should also be consistent. Even when you feel uncomfortable, you should say it anyway. I feel like I know, like, if I'm feeling uncomfortable or if I shy away, I'm like, that's the Lord telling me, no, you need to go and, pretty much have that conversation. Goodness, what was my other point? You were talking about consistent communication. That's also going back, like you said, if it's somebody you love or you care about, it's just trying to have that humility. Like, if you do love, you got to really remind yourself, because sometimes I got to do it. Okay, I feel like we all do.
Yeah. Even the most humble people have pride. So
yes,
and there's nothing. Pride comes before a man's fall. So if you think about that, you don't want to fall. So and when you, like my mom, so one thing I admire about her is how peaceful of a woman she is. She just has this grace about her. And she always says, my mom's a control freak. We joke about it and things. It used to bother me because she's still like that, but I understand that just how she is, and don't take it personal. But what she said to help her not get all rah-rah with people is the fact that she's like, I'm in control. Just because you're quiet, just because you're not yelling, even if you're sitting down and somebody's sitting over you, you really are in control of that situation, because you're not allowing somebody else to change who you are. You're not allowing them to get you hyped up and amped up. And so do you think that the loudest rah-rah, you're letting somebody else affect you to the point where you're acting out of character and embarrassing yourself a lot of the time. So quiet always isn't a bad thing. That's also that's power. There's power in the quiet. Okay, say it. Especially like speaking back of power of the tongue. Sometimes we need to learn to be quiet in situations, because you could add fuel to the fire. You could be manifesting something over yourself that you don't even want, just because you're pissed off and upset in the moment. So even another thing that I had watched, I think it was like a sermon or podcast or something I was watching, and this man with his wife, he said that because let's be real, we all have situations. There's nothing wrong with, reality. Life can be hard sometimes. We have a lot of circumstances and things that could be out of our control, but we need to be more in control of what we can control. And he said when they get upset, that they allow themselves 5 minutes to talk whatever they got to say about the situation, say their real feelings about it. If they mad, they're angry, I can't stand this, just get whatever they need to get out in those 5 minutes. And then after that, they pray about it. They, think about a plan. Okay, what can we do after this? And they put, more positive out there than negative, because you don't want to deny yourself feelings. Nobody's saying you can't say how you really feel about things, but
I like that.
Be cautious about what you're saying. And after you because feelings are only real to you. Their feelings are very real, but they're only true to you. They're only validated through you. Nobody has to validate your feelings. So if we're so feeling based, we forget that there's grace, there's the calm after the storm, that there is good after whatever. So
that I really like that, and just giving one another grace to be able to say everything you do feel, and then pray about it, or come to a consensus about it or an agreement about it. And I feel like too, when you said that, because imagine if you were in a situation with a friend or loved one or somebody, and you just allow them to say everything you feel. Or I think about King in this moment. I'll allow him to say everything he feels, and listen to his feelings. I don't know about everybody else, but I personally think, what could I do to be sensitive to his feelings, to make him feel like I actually heard him.
Especially as a parent, is so important with our kids, especially with a boy, and a black boy that you're raising, is because you don't want to have him stop communicating how he feels, because when you start to do that, then you have years of trying to undo that. So the fact that he is already so emotionally in tune and able to express himself, that is a powerful thing.
Especially for a black man.
I hate that society has made us think that having emotions and crying or saying how you really feel is weak, because it's so powerful to do that. It's so powerful to be vulnerable with people and tell them how you feel and not know what backlash you're going to receive from that. And it actually is harder to try to force those things up and bottle them up. And that's why a lot of us burst out in rage, is because we think that because we didn't say something that we let it go. But most of the time you're just building all these blocks on top of each other, then they all come crumbling down, and something that could have been so small is now a whole hurricane of emotion because you didn't deal with all these other things.
It just makes me think, like, it's crazy how the Lord works, sometimes, because just with him being so verbal, I wasn't verbal growing up. Mm-hmm. I didn't have room to be verbal just because the way my mom raised us, but I'm just thinking about it, like, I know how that affected me as a grown woman, and so I'm just, I avoid, being verbal or confronting situations or people or anything when I feel some type of way about it. Yeah. And so the fact that King's like me in so many ways, but at the same time, he's the opposite
helping you grow. And your kids, you don't realize, kids are so extraordinary, and they're the closest thing of heaven on earth. And you don't realize how much they grow you up, or how kids will uncover things that you didn't even realize were triggers or things that you hadn't dealt with or healed with. Yes. And kids are the easiest ones to start those things with, because you don't want to hurt your child. Mm-hmm. You should not want to hurt them. You should only want the best for them. You should only be doing things, out of love. And one thing I do appreciate with Nadia is, even if I do yell and get super upset, like I have humility as a parent. I will go back to my child and I will apologize to them, which is something our parents never did. It was, you do what I tell you to do. You don't talk, anything you say back, if you open your mouth, you're talking back. And sometimes they just want to understand. Now, my daughter wants to ask 1,000 other questions, and then tries to be the superior of the conversation. But, I will go back to her and I will apologize. Like, I'm sorry, mommy did this. And she was like, it's okay, mommy. And I forgive you. And we hug it out and say, I love you. Or even if I say something to her, Nadia will be like, mommy, I don't like when you said this. It made me feel like this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to even say that. And it's getting so, important now. I have to be very mindful of the tone that I use in my eyes. She was like, mommy, she'll ask me, mommy, are you upset right now? And I'm not even upset. And I'm like, no. She's like, well, you sound upset. Or yesterday she was like, you look upset, your eyes are, and it's like, it'll be something she did that would catch me in the moment. I might make a face, and she picks up on that. Oh, I did something my mom doesn't like. So like I said, how most communication is nonverbal. You have to be very careful of your whole how you present yourself, especially to a child, because especially like our children are very they pick up the energy around them. They feel everything, so they can tell if there's something going on with us, even if it's not. They very much are empaths, and they can even tell if something's going on even when it's not between me and them. Something's going on with mommy. And you have to be very careful with sensitive spirited kids, especially.
It makes me think, the other day, so King, like I said, he's very emotionally kind of driven, and so he tells me right away, like, if I yell, or it's like, tone is so important, because I said something to him, and his thing is always, why are you yelling? Why do you have to yell? And so sometimes it's just like, sometimes when I'm trying to correct him or just give him something that I want him to know, or tell him something I want him to know, it may come off like I'm so like, don't do this, and I have to,
because you understand as a parent how serious some things are. Passion, that's passion.
And so the other day at his grandma's, I told him, don't be arguing with his uncle. His uncle's a few years older than him, and he was like, why are you yelling at me? And like blew up. And honestly, I didn't yell, but I did say it very firmly. And so, girl, he started to walk away and stomp away from me. And so I kind of was like, no, come back here, very firmly. You need to listen to me when I'm talking to you. I wasn't yelling. I was just telling you not to argue with your uncle. And so his grandma pretty much was trying to tell him to, listen to your mom. She's talking to you, don't walk away from her. And also to try to control your reaction and your emotions. But his dad came back to me days later and was like, yeah, my mom told me the King was disrespectful or yelling and whatnot. Why didn't you whip him, or why didn't you tell me? And I'm just like, I literally had no words, because in my mind I'm thinking, well, I don't want to whip him for everything.
And you should have to every little thing that happens.
And also too, I was thinking like, well, you know, he was just telling me not to yell at him, and I received that because I don't want to always be yelling. I don't want to, you know, I want to get what I need to get across to him in a way that he can receive it. And so when his dad asked me, like, because he's like, well, how often does he do this? And I'm like, well, he's sometimes often, you know, gets really upset and like will yell at me, but it's because he doesn't like the way I'm speaking to him.
And also, our kids are mirrors of us. Like, if people haven't realized by now, your kids do not do what you say. They do what they see. They do what they see you doing. So you can't tell them not to do something and then you're doing it. And if you are doing things that you don't want your kid to do, participate in, don't do it around them. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do, you know, have that like that every time.
Yeah.
But my daughter will start talking to me a certain way, or even when I see her playing with her dolls or friend, she talks how I talk. So she's yelling and snappy, and I'm like, why you act like that? Like you, but that's what mommy does. So I can't tell her to not do something that I'm doing. That's just hypocritical. And even though it's my child, like I know we're not equals. I am, you know, in charge of her, but there is a way that they're little humans and they have very real feelings. So I encourage, if anybody is watching that as a parent, I encourage that to be maybe your first step in trying to work on how you speak is with your kids, because I feel like it's just easier. And then even working with how you speak to yourself, because I'm very hard on myself. I'm one of those people who can, you know, especially with my friends and people I love, I can encourage them. I can speak life over them. I can pray for them so easily. And with myself, I'm so critical and hard on myself sometimes. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And even if you have to get in the mirror and talk to yourself, or put sticky notes up on your mirror to remind you of who you are, or I have a daily affirmation app that sends me, you can put on there how many affirmations you want a day at different times to just, you know, keep that positivity flowing in your mind, because if you have that resonating in your mind, so that's another thing too, what you listen to can play into what you're thinking and how you're feeling. So everything in this world just ties in all together. And once you really get the bigger picture, and I believe that I have been revealed the bigger picture, which is why I feel like it's even so more prominent to start this podcast now, because people need to hear, and we all need to just do better, because you never know when your time is, you know.
And we need to love each other, y'all. We need love, y'all.
Yeah, I had saw this post the other day, and it really broke, and I don't know why. I do know why it bothered me so much now, because I processed it all. But this girl was saying how she lives by an older white man who has been calling her the N-word for the last couple weeks.
She lives by him, like, as a neighbor?
Yes. And so the other day, she saw that he fell and he was on the floor and he could not get up. Now, she made this status, and she decided to help this man and pick him up. And she said she had to take 35 minutes out of her day. I don't know if she was on her way to work. It was during the morning or what she had to do, but she took time out of her day to help this man that's been insulting her for a couple weeks, and help him up and into his home and make sure that he was okay. And, you know, a lot of people on there were talking like, oh, you better than me. I would have left him there. I would have took my phone out and recorded him and went back inside. No. Or and everybody was pretty much, most people on there were just saying that they would have never helped him. And, you know, when she helped him, he ended up apologizing to her, like, I'm so sorry, this and this and that. And sometimes you block your own blessings, because even though he was the one on floor in need, I told her, I said, you know, you did the same thing that I would have done. And we were learned as children, treat others how you want to be treated. And I used to get so annoyed hearing that all the time. But literally, that is one of the biggest issues we have worldwide, is people not treating others how they want to be treated. We treat people how they treat us. But what you do is not about them. It's for you.
It's for you.
And you reap what you sow. So if you're putting bad out there because somebody was bad to you, you're going to receive bad back. And, you know, now with this situation, I guarantee you when she's at home, she's going to have more peace. He's not going to be calling her names anymore. I bet that was a humbling experience for him as well.
And I'm sure
to have somebody who you don't like sit there and help you, and you
very
needed
humbling.
that, because you never know who you need in life. So you have to be very careful of who, you know, you're bad to. So if you always just think, would you want this done to you? Would you want someone to say this about you? If you don't, then don't do it. I know it's hard sometimes, and you know, you feel like people do you wrong and you want to get back at them. the universe have, even if you don't believe in God, everybody I know, you reap what you sow, or what comes around goes around, and the universe has a way of,
everything is a cycle.
It will get dealt with. Whether you don't have to sometimes you gotta take your hand out of things and let the world do what it do. Because I am a very blessed person. I've had a lot of things done wrong to me. I've had very failed friendships and relationships that really hurt me, and I was really good to these people, and I chose to just walk away or not even entertain some certain things. And people do, God has even allowed me to see that things aren't always as pretty as people present them to be. And God has humbled a lot of people's situations, or even they have come back and apologized to me for how they have treated me. So sometimes you can mess up things by yelling right away, or putting negative out there.
Fire with fire.
Yeah, and like the scripture says, life and death. Just think of anything that's positive is life, anything that is not is death. And now, do you want to be putting death onto people, or do you want to be putting death onto yourself or onto situations? They even did this scientific experiment with 2 plants. Have you heard about that? I've seen it done many times, and I think I should do it myself, but I'm not really good with plants.
Girl, they speak life into one?
So yeah, they have 2 plants that they do, and they speak positive over this one. Like, you're beautiful, what? You are life, you are light, you're whatever, you whatever. Now they have the same amount of sunlight, they have the same amount of watering. And another one they spoke bad to, like, you're stupid, you're not gonna make it, you're this and you're that. And the one that they spoke bad to had died a lot quicker and disintegrated a lot quicker than the other one.
I want to talk to my plants when I get home, y'all. I mean, talk to them sometimes, but I'm gonna be making sure I talk to them daily, like I talk to God.
so yeah, like that's how powerful it is. Like, everything that you speak over can really, even your car. Like, there's been a couple times I had not the best car.
We just named my car.
Oh, what's the name?
What did King say? He said Squay. Because
I
said it's silver and it's gray. He said
that's
gray.
Fire.
I said it's silver. He was like, we can call it Squay. So that's
fire. Look, even a child could compromise. So why can't we? But I had a car that wouldn't, haven't had the best experience with cars in the past, and I know everybody got their car stories, and my car wouldn't start, and I started, in Jesus' name, start with it, because I had to get to where I was going, and after a couple times it started. I'm not gonna say that that's gonna happen every time, but you got to be good to your car, even if it's not being ain't the most reliable car, but it's getting you where you need to go right now. And just, I thank God for this car. Thank you for getting me where I need to go. And just even speaking things over that, like, you don't realize how much of an effect that has on things. Because sometimes, like I said, we manifest things into existence, and then we be so frustrated, but like, you said that, and now it's coming to pass, because like you said, we are made in God's image. We have all the power. Like, we literally are made in His image, so we can speak things. We too can raise people from the dead if we wanted. Like, we can do anything because we have that power running through us. So what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sit on it? Are you going to use it to cause death into the world, or are you going to be a light and continue on?
Yeah, I have a question for you. So because I've been thinking about this, I kind of been praying about it too, and so how would you handle someone that you're speaking life into, or you're trying to say they're not going through a good time or whatever, and you're trying to speak life to them, but they keep being so pessimistic, and everything you're saying they're just shutting out, or they're shutting down. Like, I don't know.
So that's something I'm a very realist, which sometimes can be tied into pessimism. I'm like, I'm not being negative, I'm just being real. This is what's going on in my life, and everything, I feel like everything sucks right now. And, sometimes what I realized is, when somebody's talking to you, sometimes people just want you to listen. Sometimes they don't want to hear what you have to say. So even asking, like, what do you want from me from this conversation before you even start will help clear up things, because you don't have to sit there and do something they're not going to even be receptive to. Now, you can still speak life over them when you're praying over them, or even later on in the text message, you say, just want to let you know this and you're that. Just pray about whatever. But in that initial moment, maybe you should have just listened, because they probably aren't going to be receiving what you have to say at that time anyways.
And it's ironic too, because after I started to try to redirect her, her thought process on what she was saying, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna not say anything.
And then you're gonna get yourself kind of frustrated and worked up. But one thing about people we love is that we all have our own journey, and sometimes we're all on a different path in our journeys, or we're on a different level in our journeys, and people don't have to grow with you and be on. Now, anybody I love, I want them to be on the board with me, but they're not, and it's just our job to love them through that. And you know, sometimes in even conversations, people do just want you to hear them. They just want to vent to sometimes, and they just want to get their feelings out. And you know, in that moment, I just always think like, you know what, right now it's not about me. Even if you have the best for them, it can, like I said, they weren't going to be receptive at that time anyways.
Yeah.
And just wait till like a later time, and because you don't want to get yourself worked up now, especially when it's somebody you love, and some people aren't ready for what you have to give them. They're not ready to receive it, and they're not going to receive it, or they're not ready to change the way that they think and that they move. So even if you're not ready, that's fine. Maybe this isn't the podcast for you today. We're definitely going to have a lot of topics that we cover. But you know, if this is for you, or if you are ready, if you're starting that journey, or you want to start that journey, I encourage you to just start with, you know, when you wake up in the morning, take 5 minutes of your day. Wake up 5 minutes earlier, which that means, I know a lot of y'all snooze at least 2 or 3 times. So take one of those snoozes off, or, you know, even when you're sleeping, my mom plays positive affirmations or scriptures when they're sleeping. You have that resonating in your mind and your subconscious when you're sleeping. So you're going to start your day better. Even putting on positive music, or taking that 5 minutes to talk to yourself in the morning, get alone before you wake up the kids, or whatever you have to do, and just talk, be intentional. Like, today is going to be a good day. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. And even when something bad happens, just like, you know, this was a bad thing that happened, but life isn't bad. Today is not going to be bad. You know, you have 1,000 other seconds in the day. So don't let those 10 seconds or 10 minutes affect your whole entire day. Because we add life to something that was so small. We have magnified our whole day around it, and now we have to ruin the whole day over something that happened 5 minutes. Like somebody, you know, in traffic, I used to have a crazy road rage. Somebody, you know, crossing over, cutting you off or something, and I'm
dragging that along with you.
For what? For what? And we just need to be more graceful with ourselves and others.
Just about to say, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. I was just about to say that. You guys, give yourself grace.
So yeah, is there anything else you want to say before we?
No, I would say give yourself grace. Don't be, you know, that's what I was gonna say. So yeah.
And be a light in this world. And like I said, just start with, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am enough, I am smart, I am in control of me and my emotions. And even start with things like that. I can guarantee you that it will make all the difference. And I'm not saying that life is going to be perfect now that you started speaking life and all these things, because there is certain things, natural causes that are out of our control. But we tend to deal with them better, especially when you know that you're not alone.
Or things that try to come to disturb you either. So don't even allow that to, you know, get you off your square either. So.
And you are not alone. You have a friend in us. If you ever want to reach out to us for advice, prayers, thoughts, anything, we do have our emails and everything. All of our information will be posted with our videos. And thank you for tuning in to Real Talk today with Lorèal and Lakeba. I'm so excited. This was our first one. I think it was very successful. I feel really good.
Yes.
So thank you, and have a great day, and be great, be loved, be light.